When Generation 2 introduced held items, it was pretty obvious that Farfetch'd was going to be one of the Pokemon that would get a unique held item in this generation. Just like Marowak, it holds an item in its, I guess, wing that it uses in order to attack opponents. The venerable Leek, which was actually called the Stick in Generation 2. But unlike the Thick Club that we've already seen from Marowak or the Light Ball that we've seen on Pikachu, this item seems relatively underpowered. It doesn't double your stats, it just increases your critical hit chance, basically being like an automatic version of Focus Energy. But how good will that actually be on this Pokemon? I'm honestly not very sure, because we can see Farfetch'd comes in with a very meager 352 base stat total, with all of its stats just hovering in the 52 to 65 range. It's also in the medium fast level up group, so it's not really going to gain a ton of levels as we go through a solo run. But this Pokemon could benefit from the increased critical hit chance due to the fact that Gen 2 allows high critical hit chance moves to stack with Swords Dance. Now, normally our Farfetch'd would be able to learn Swords Dance at level 25 and Slash at level 37. However, there is a better Farfetch'd available in Gen 2 as long as you played Pokemon Stadium 2. After defeating the rival in the Stadium 2's version of the Gym Leader Castle, you would receive a level 5 Farfetch'd that was very special, the Baton Pass Farfetch'd. I have very vague recollections of getting this Pokemon back in the day. Of course, being a Farfetch'd, I didn't really think it was very good, but it does start the game with Baton Pass, Agility, Swords Dance, and Slash, theoretically giving it 3 of its best moves right off the rip when we start this run, and Baton Pass can easily be replaced with basically anything else as we go through this challenge. Missing out on Peck at the start of the game will be a little bit of a disadvantage when we come up against Bugsy, and of course when we get to Morty, we're going to be stuck using weaker moves as well. But once we get to Fly, this set might actually not be that bad, at least for the Johto section. But how good will it actually be? Let's get into it and find out. So as we come into Professor Elm's lab today, he's going to give us the best Pokemon that has ever run away from him in Ilex Forest. It's time to get access to our Farfetch'd. Now, we can't really go up against the Bayleaf team, so I'm thinking that probably the Croconaut team is the hardest. Maybe. I'm honestly not sure, but I'm gonna try to go up against that team and just see how this goes. So just like that, we can get our Farfetch'd, and we are running the legendary My Stick. Because when I think about the stick as an item, it reminds me of that bad lip reading episode where they had Yoda singing a song about his stick. Yeah. I'm probably the only person who remembers that. Anyway, let's get into this challenge properly, where My Stick is going to be incredibly powerful, I think. Starting the game with Slash, Swords Dance, Agility. Baton Pass is obviously a move that we can't really make use of here. We'll get rid of that pretty quick. Guessing Mud Slap's going to come on the moveset pretty early on in this one. But now, in theory at least, the Stick plus the Slash should really stack together pretty nicely to allow us to do quite a bit of damage. And that just makes me think that this one could be a lot better than what we're initially thinking. And I think this is fair to use this special Farfetch'd, given the fact that when we did the Thick Club Marowak, we started with Swords Dance. When we did the Light Ball Pikachu, we gave it Surf. We're basically running the best version of these Pokemon with their unique held items, so I think it makes sense to also give Farfetch'd this strong moveset. We're gonna have to think about what to give Chansey when we do the Lucky Punch. I'm thinking that it actually needs to have some move that has the word punch in the name in order to make that one actually seem legitimate. But for now, we will progress in the game with our Farfetch'd, and let's just take on rival number 1 and see how he goes. So of course he's going to lead off with his Totodile. I don't think we need to do anything other than go Slash. It's the same type move that also has a high crit chance, and it turns out to be just 2 slashes to knock out the rival, easily getting us the victory on the first attempt. And I expect Slash to be strong enough that it should completely destroy Faulkner's gym. Consider that it's a same type move plus the high crit chance. There just seems to be no way that we could ever fail here. Now, because of the origin story of our name here, we're gonna have to name our rival Luke. If you know, you know. But now with our Pokemon in tow, we are ready to move on in this challenge. And the rules are basically the same as previous runs. I'm going to be trying to stay on minimum battles as much as I possibly can, but I may take optional battles if we reach a point where minimum battles just seems completely unreasonable. Usually I would cap that at 1 critical hit, but because we're using a high critical hit chance move, realistically trying to get 2 crits in a battle is reasonable to me. We're probably not going to go for 3 crits though, just my personal feeling, but feel free to debate me in the comments down below. Anyway, we have made it to Falconer's Gym. Honest Abe is first up, and I'm not sure if we need Swords Dance here or not. I think we could go for Agility to outspeed, and at least then we should be able to hit more reliably, but we can see that with the crit, this is going to be a 2-hitter, and since we have a high crit chance, getting that crit is pretty likely. Now, we could learn Sand Attack. I am going to learn it over Baton Pass just because Baton Pass is completely useless to us, and with Honest Abe done, I think Rod is not going to be an issue at all, so let's just make our way straight to Falconer. So Falconer attempt number 1, I'm going to lead off with an Agility here to make sure that I'm faster than the Pidgeotto. I didn't mean to use 2 agilities, that was a mistake, but now I will set up 1 Swords Dance and go for Slash. That will one-shot the Pidgey. Out comes the Pidgeotto. We are faster. Slash did a lot of damage, and in spite of the fact that it hit Gust, we're going to win on the first attempt. In fact, a single critical hit would have just destroyed that Pokemon. So I think we're getting through this gym, at least on minimum battles, nice and easy, which makes sense. We're running effectively stronger than anything that we had with our normal minimum battles run with Farfetch'd. So if a normal Farfetch'd gets through, I would expect Slash to do just as well. The big place where we deviate from the minimum battles run, of course, is that we cannot add on berries. Normally, the Baton Pass Farfetch'd comes with a gold berry attached to it when you get it from Stadium 2. Of course, any other held item, like leftovers, are completely banned in this. We can only run with the stick because we have to see how good this item actually was. And after picking up TM39 just to have access to Swift, just in case we need it at any point in this challenge, we are ready to move on to the Slowpoke Well, where I think we're going to completely destroy Team Rocket. So let's just find out if we get through this section nice and easy. And sure enough, by generally just setting up 1 Swords Dance and then going into Slash, we completely destroy everything. So we've made it to Jamesy Proton with no issues whatsoever. Here, I don't even think we set up the Swords Dance. Let's just go for the Slash. If we get a crit, it will be a 2-hit KO with crits. Otherwise, it's a 4-hitter, but we still get through nice and easy before he can do anything to us. We get the free heal, and now I think the best play is to make our way into the gym. We don't currently have a move that can hit ghosts, and the only move that's available to us is Mud Slap. So I'm going to learn this move right away, and I'm going to slap this on over Sand Attack. Since they're effectively the same thing, just Mud Slap can't hit flying types and is a damage dealing move, but we're going to need that move in order to have any shot against rival number 2. Still, I think going into the gym first is the best play with this Pokemon. And now we could learn Leer at level 13, but we're going to skip this move because really I think it's just better to have the Swords Dance and set up, and I think Agility could have a lot of value later on, given that this isn't a particularly fast Pokemon by any means. Agility could be the difference between outspeeding and KOing our opponents, or maybe being able to go for some headbutt strats later on, so I'm just going to stick with this moveset as it is. And with that, we're ready to take on Bugsy for the first time. So I think the strategy here is to set up an Agility to make sure that we outspeed. And then I'm going to set up multiple Swords Dances here because I just want to destroy the Scyther when it comes out. Let's not even give it a chance to build up. So with 3 Swords Dances, we now Slash and one-shot the Metapod. Scyther comes out next. It goes Quick Attack, but Slash then just completely destroys it. We get to level 14 as Kakuna comes out, and it goes down in a single hit, allowing us to get the incredibly easy victory against Bugsy. Now, one thing that I honestly find a little bit disappointing is that this Pokemon can't learn Fury Cutter, because I think that Fury Cutter would make a lot of sense on this Pokemon, honestly. It would be slashing over and over again at its opponents with its stick, which I think could be like a Fury Cutter. Unfortunately, it doesn't learn that, but maybe someday I'll find out how good Farfetch'd would be if it learned Fury Cutter. Anyway, for now, we have to go ahead and get into the Rival 2 fight. Let's see how this goes. So here, first up against the Ghastly, I'm going to set up Agility to make sure I'm faster than everything. I'm going to set up a Swords Dance, and now the advantage that we have is because we are half normal type, we can't be affected by Lick, which means we'll never take any damage from this Ghastly. So after setting up all 3 Swords Dances, we can just go Mud Slap to destroy Ghastly right there. Zubat comes out next, we'll go Slash, completely destroying that Pokemon, and now Croconaw will stick with the Slash, and it's an easy one-hit KO. I'm not sure if I needed all the Swords Dances, but because the setup is completely free there, I think it is the best decision to make. Now we can come in and see our cousin who's like running around in the Ilex Forest. Clearly this is where Elm found this Pokemon originally, and we are going to learn how to cut from the Charcoal Maker right here. Now, fortunately, we got a Sentret earlier on to be our cut Pokemon, so we do not have to replace our very incredibly powerful Slash with that move right now. We will, however, pick up Headbutt here in the Ilex Forest. Not for immediate use, but it could be an option if we have a really tough fight. There may be a situation after we get through, in theory, like Jasmine, where maybe we just want to get rid of Mud Slap and instead have, you know, a dual set for a while of Slash and Headbutt, for example, in order to cheese with some flinches while also having a high damage output move. For now, though, I'm simply going to stick to the same minimum battles route that I've used in previous sections. We're going to come in the underground, we're going to get all the HM field move Pokemon that we need, and then we will make our way to Whitney. So our first attempt against Whitney here, we've got the Clefairy, of course, out first. I'm going to once again agility to make sure I'm faster than everything. She self-destructs with the Clefairy. Are you kidding me? So we take our first reset right here on Whitney. This is going to be random. We have to not get a bad move from the metronome, I think, if we're going to get through. We get some critical hits and double edge there, so once again, not a great result against this first Clefairy. We're kind of hoping for it to go like Mimic or something like that. This time we get Shadow Ball, then it goes double edge, now it goes Mimic. We've set up all these Swords Dances. I'm just going to set up Agility here, and then Slash should destroy this Pokemon. Out next comes the Miltank. I'm going Slash. We would need a critical hit to one-shot, but Rollout didn't do that much, so we're able to knock it out on the second turn. So it took 3 attempts to get through Whitney there. It's not perfectly consistent by any means. It completely comes down to what the Clefairy does. If the Clefairy is bad, you will win because you'll simply be able to set up all of your moves and eventually knock her team out. But if it goes self-destruct or starts using super effective moves, you can get pretty easily wrecked there because we don't have anything that boosts our defenses here with this Farfetch'd. And now in the National Park, we will pick up TM28, which unfortunately in this version does not teach the move Tombstoner. However, if you've ever thought about Tombstoner in Gen 1, you might want to go check out RBY Pokemon Challenges, because I heard he might be doing something with a Tombstoner run, and I think that it might be the single most overpowered move in the entire game. In fact, I will tell you right now that if we could learn Tombstoner with this Farfetch'd, we would be guaranteed to beat Red on minimum battles with 0 resets. I just took a ton of resets, unfortunately, on this fat guy spinner right here. Clearly, he's just like me. There's no way to get past him unless you're really lucky. But we are moving on into game on minimum battles, and realistically, only 2 of the resets actually came from battle at this point. So now we've basically made it to where we are in the minimum battles series. We're coming to Ecruteak, where I think we're going to do just fine with the Mud Slap as long as we get powered up. Honestly, Curse might not matter as long as we're outspeeding everything with agility and that we've got the Swords Dances set up so that we can basically one-shot all of our opponents. So I think this is going to be okay, but let's just see how it actually works out. We have a small advantage in that we have 61 HP, which means that Curse is going to be doing 15 damage each time, and after 4 curses, we'll still have 1 HP remaining. That might be all that we need to sweep through the team as long as we're outspeeding. So here, I think the strategy against the rival is to lead off with an agility first. He, of course, goes Curse turn 1. Then we're going to start setting up our Swords Dance. Of course, this Haunter can do no damage to us with any of its moves because we are a normal type. So I think we can set up the 3 Swords Dances here that will leave us at 1 HP remaining, but we should be faster than everything. And from there, it's just a question of whether or not we one-shot. Let's try the Mud Slap on the Haunter. That does knock that Pokemon out. Out next comes the Magnemite. We'll stick with the Mud Slap, knocking that Pokemon out as well. Zubat can get slashed, which is an easy victory. And Croconaw, we go for the Slash, and once again, it is a one-hit KO. That's why I went hard on the setup, knowing that because of the ranges we would survive with at least 1 HP makes that one really not bad when you're running this set on this Farfetch'd. So just like that, we can free the legendary beasts. We can send the guy, people said he's Eugene, but I say Eugene. Technically, you could just add a 1010 onto she in Japanese and that would make it G. But technically, maybe he's actually Eugene. I'm not sure. Of course, I'm just trolling. But yeah, that guy, we're probably never going to fight him. But if we do, the Magic Man probably doesn't stand a chance. Anyway, we have made it now to Morty's gym. I'm going to set up Swords Dance and then just spam the Mud Slap. I think we're going to easily destroy all of these Pokemon. Now, of course, none of the randos pose any difficulty inside of Morty's gym. I don't think we've ever seen a Pokemon struggle here. So it's just about Morty himself, where I think the same kind of tactics that we just used against the rival will also work here against Morty. Let's get into it and find out. So first up, he has the Ghastly, of course. I'm going to take this opportunity to set up agility to double my speed. We're now faster than his entire team. Next, I'm going to set up 3 Swords Dances because I highly anticipate that we will not one-shot his Pokemon with just 1 Swords Dance. But now we can go into our Mud Slap and destroy the Ghastly. The Haunter is out next. We go Mud Slap. It's an easy one-hit KO. Gengar comes out third. Mud Slap is not a one-hitter here. It would need a crit, and we get put to sleep and we stay asleep, so that is the end of this one. But a single crit on the Gengar or not getting put to sleep would be enough to get through here. So next attempt, we're going to set up in exactly the same way. Now go to the Mud Slap to knock out the Ghastly again. Mud Slap again will one-shot the Haunter. Back to the Gengar, we land the Mud Slap and get the crit this time, meaning it's a one-hit KO. That brings us to the final Haunter where we Mud Slap and it's game over. We easily get through Morty on the second attempt. So it's really just that simple. You either get a crit or the Hypnosis miss. Given that we have an increased crit chance with the stick, plus the fact that after a single Mud Slap, he's not going to be hitting Hypnosis very often, I think that's a pretty reasonable spot to be able to get through. So I honestly don't feel too bad about that decision. Now we need to think about how to route though, and I'm going to route down to Chuck first. My logic here is actually pretty simple. I expect the fighting gym not to be that bad for Farfetch'd, and I think this is more efficient than even going to the Lake of Rage first. Plus, we'll get access to Fly, which even if we don't teach it to Farfetch'd immediately, because I'm not sure that will be the best play, we'll at least be able to throw that on to Kenya the Spearow in order to fly around and move more efficiently across the map. But of course, before we go to Cyanwood, we need to start our investigation of Jasmine's illicit activities. She's going to ask us to be her mule, but little does she know we're going to come back to punish her for that later on. So we'll get the super secret potion here, and then let's make our way over to the gym, and let's just see if we can get through at our current level. If it's not working, then we can consider going to the Rocket Hideout first. I just want to test this out and see. The fight that I expect to be really hard for a lot of Pokemon in the next section of the Minimum Battle series, by the way, is this first fight inside of Chuck's gym, because you have to fight 2 trainers back to back, Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan. Of course, against Hitmonlee, I think we just go Slash, but we can see Double Kick did massive damage there, and then Jump Kick nearly one-shot us. After that, we immediately have to take on Hitmonchan, and while this Pokemon is slower than us, if we get hit by any damage-dealing move, it's basically game over because we're only on 1 HP. So we're really hoping for a crit here. We get it, but it's not enough to one-shot with a crit. We're actually going to need 2 hits on the Hitmonchan or a Swords Dance to get this one to go. So I think if we critical hit on the Hitmonlee, we'll get through that one in a single hit. So let's just test this out a little bit more. Sure enough, the critical hit is enough to one-shot. That brings us back to the Hitmonchan, but on higher health. We're already faster, so we go Slash, we get a crit, Comet Punch does not knock us out, and we win on the second attempt. But I think we can see there pretty clearly why Pokemon will possibly fail on that battle against Yoshi, and I forget the name of the second trainer there, but just the fact that you have to fight these 2 in succession, and because we don't use items in battle, that actually could be a major wall in the next section. Fortunately, after the back-to-back battle at the start of this gym, nothing else poses any major issues for us. So I think we're just going to take a quick heal, and then it's time to take on Chuck himself. So I'm honestly not sure what the best strategy here is. We're already reasonably fast, but slower than this first Primeape. We're obviously most scared of Karate Chop. It goes Leer turn 1. I'm going to try to set up a Swords Dance. In fact, when it's going Rage and misses Fury Swipes, I'm just going to set up all the Swords Dances here. Then let's go Slash. That one-shot's there against the Primeape. Out comes the Poliwrath. We would be faster no matter what, but we're powered up thanks to our Swords Dances. So let's just see what Slash does. Sure enough, at least with the crit, it was a one-hitter, and we get through Chuck nice and easy. So with Chuck done, we can talk to his wife, who's going to give us a present for putting him in his place. Don't understand in Pokemon why it's always family members stunting on their relatives. Like in Gen 1, Professor Oak was completely stunting on his grandson. Here we've got the wife giving presents for beating up her husband. I mean, what is this? Still, with that done, we can come back to Olivine. We'll deliver the secret potion right now to Jasmine. I highly doubt we can beat Jasmine at this point, but honestly, I don't know. I'm going to try the fight one time, expecting to lose, and then we'll just simply go to the Lake of Rage, but I just want to see how this fight actually looks. We've got Mud Slap, which is 4 times super effective against the Magnemites, but probably doesn't one-shot, if I have to guess, without at least setting up some Swords Dance, and because we can't use a Paralyzed Cure Parry, this one's probably going to be really tough, but let's just see what the ranges look like. So Jasmine attempt number 1, I'm going to try to go Mud Slap without any setup, just to see how much damage we do, and yeah, we do like slightly less than half, and Thunderbolt destroys us. So we're clearly not getting through this gym at this point, but that's okay. There's a bunch of free levels to be had in the Rocket Hideout, so I think we're going to be just fine when we come back later. We'll just have to see. So now at the Lake of Rage, I am going to reset in order to get access to the red Gyarados, just because I'm going to use that as one of my HM Pokemon, and we will also pick up the relevant items from the nearby area. It's worth noting that we are running on max DVs, so Hidden Power Dark is the Hidden Power typing. Arguably something like Hidden Power Ground is probably better for this Pokemon, but in general, I either go max DVs or 0 DVs. I don't manipulate to get a particular hidden power because I find that just to be kind of cheesy and leads to every run being the same thing of just trying to get the best hidden power for your Pokemon. Let's instead focus on the moves that we're guaranteed to get on our Farfetch'd and keep it as Hidden Power Dark, since that's not really going to be a great move on this Pokemon, so it would only be used if we're absolutely desperate. And after catching the red Gyarados, we're ready to move on. Let's talk to Lancey Boy, and it's time to go beat up on some Rockets. I highly anticipate that this next section is not going to be hard at all, so basically we should just have to get in there, beat up a bunch of trainers, and I'll just talk about it if anything actually proves to be difficult. And sure enough, we make it to the end with no issues whatsoever, so let's just fight this final executive, which shouldn't be too bad, but let's find out. She leads off with Arbok, of course. I'm going to set up one Swords Dance here. We get poisoned by Poison Sting. That's too bad, but then we simply Slash and one-shot that Pokemon. Out next comes the Murkrow. Slash is an easy KO there, and Gloom gets a Slash itself, so we easily get through that fight with no issues. And after clearing this section out of the Electrodes, we just let them self-destruct on our HM Pokemon. We easily get through, and we're ready to move on in the game. Now that does mean that we had to put a bunch of Pokemon in the top slot, so they got named My Stick, but that's perfectly fine with us. We'll just have to remember which stick is actually the one that we want to have in battle. But now I think the best decision is to come in here and fight against Price, because while yes, we do have a type disadvantage here, I think we're going to outspeed everything, and so we just set up Swords Dance and Sweep. That's my idea anyway. Let's see how it actually works. So Price attempt number 1, I'm going to lead off with a Swords Dance here. Icy Wind really didn't do that much, so I'm going to set up a second Swords Dance even, and what the heck, a third Swords Dance after we get an attack drop. And now let's just see what Slash does. It one-shots the Seal. Dugong, we're faster, we Slash and get the one-hitter there as well. We level up to level 33 as Piloswine comes out. We're only at +5 attack because of the attack drop we got earlier, so we'll see if we one-shot or not. If not, we might just need to set up one more Swords Dance. So here Slash does get the one-hit KO, however, so Price goes down super easy, in spite of the fact that the Ice Gym should be one of the toughest gyms for a flying type. Turns out not to be the case. So that's all good and fine. We've gotten through 6 gyms on minimum battles, but now we need to get through Jasmine, and this could be the one where minimum battles just proves to be impossible due to us not having a good move to use here. Like I said, if you were manipulating hidden powers, probably hidden power ground is the way to go, just so that you have a nice, strong, super effective move to use against these Pokemon. But with what we've got here, Mud Slap's probably our best bet against the Magnemites. And then I'm honestly not sure. Slash might be better when we actually get to the Steelix, thanks to its higher crit chance. Still, let's test this out. Let's see if we can manage to find a way through. So first things first, I'm going to set up one Swords Dance here. We get a Thunder Wave, and now Supersonic, so I'm going to set up Agility. We're still too slow though. Thunderbolt is not quite one-shotting us, however. So I misclicked and used Swords Dance again, but this tells me that we might just have a chance here. We might be able to survive a Thunderbolt and then find a way through, as long as we can get some setup off. Still, let's go for Mud Slap first, just to see. It does do half, then we get the Thunder Wave, and then Supersonic. But in theory, we could get a bunch of Thunderbolt misses like this, and then knock this Pokemon out. It just didn't work out this time. But maybe we just need to get a good miss from Thunder Wave at the start of the fight. So we get the Thunder Wave miss. I set up Swords Dance. We get another Thunder Wave miss. Now I'm simply going to knock this Magnemite out. Second Magnemite comes out. We're going to knock that one out as well. That brings us to the Steelix, where of course it has Rock Throw, which is super effective, and Iron Tail. I'm going to give it a Mud Slap first just to lower its accuracy. I'm going to set up more Swords Dance here. Oh, the Iron Tail critical hit just one-shot us though. I'm not sure if the crit matters or not, because it's not like it has amazing attack, but we don't have great defense. So it could be a situation where Iron Tail just wrecks us no matter what. I'm going to have to test this out a little bit more. So I think we're just resetting for a run where we get a miss from Thunder Wave turn 1, which, keep in mind, those moves like Thunder Wave can miss naturally, and we're giving them an extra chance to miss by using the Mud Slap here. So I don't think it's completely unreasonable to go for a miss. We're just going to have to see if it can actually work out though. Okay, we get a miss right here. Then we set up the Swords Dance, but then we immediately get Thunder Waved after that, which is not what we want to see. We will need some agilities here if we're going to get through, and we simply don't get the luck for it that time. It's also worth noting that a critical hit Mud Slap does look like it will one-shot against these Magnemites. So this time we get to Steelix on slightly lower health and paralyzed. We hit ourselves once in confusion, but we are faster thanks to some agility setup. We can see that we actually survived the Iron Tail when it wasn't a critical hit, but we're going to need to get more misses than that if we're actually going to get through. A few attempts later, we do get back to Steelix on full health. Once again, I am going to Mud Slap it first to lower its accuracy a little bit. Now I'm going to finish setting up my Swords Dance, and unfortunately after Screech plus Iron Tail we get knocked out. But honestly, a couple of Mud Slaps should get Iron Tail's accuracy down enough that we could reset for some misses there. The third time back to Steelix, we once again Mud Slap it. Iron Tail misses this time. I'm actually going to set up multiple Mud Slaps here, just trying to get more misses. We finish our Swords Dance setup. Now let's see what Mud Slap does. A critical hit did really good damage, only for us to get knocked out by the Iron Tail. But if we could have landed one more hit, we would have won that fight. This time we actually managed to set up all 3 Swords Dances on the first Magnemite, because it missed Thunder Wave twice and it missed Supersonic once. It didn't end up landing Supersonic, but we still get through with full HP. We then knock out the first Magnemite. We're to the Steelix, where I'm just going to go Mud Slap. And currently, with the 3 Swords Dances set up, this did 22 damage. So without crits, this would be a 5-hit KO, and Iron Tail critical hits to 1-hit KO us, which is kind of ridiculous. We get a lot of critical hits against us from this Steelix, which doesn't make any sense to me. Like, it's only supposed to have like a 6% chance to actually crit here. Why is it critting us so much? So this time I made it to Steelix without setting up any Swords Dances before this. So I'm going to set up all 3 now. We've gotten some nice Iron Tail misses. Now it finally does manage to hit us, but we set up our 3 Swords Dances and it simply knocks us out immediately after that. Now, of course, the other issue with Jasmine is that she does use Hyper Potions. So I did get her to red health on this attempt. She healed all of her HP up basically. Still, we are getting misses, but we've run out of Mud Slaps, so we have to go Slash. The critical hit gets the job done. So it ended up taking 41 resets to get through Jasmine on minimum battles. Probably not reasonable. You should probably go and fight against other trainers and gain levels right here. The reason I reset on this one so much is because, honestly, I expect Jasmine to be the only major wall for us for a very long time. Like, yes, Clair has Pokemon that know Ice Beam and Thunderbolt, but if we can manage to set up enough with our Swords Dance and Agility, I think we'll be able to simply destroy all of our Pokemon. I don't foresee us having any issues in this next section as we go back to Goldenrod to do the whole Radio Tower quest. And when we get to the League, I'm honestly not sure that we're going to have any major issues because I expect that we're going to be able to set up pretty well against a lot of those Pokemon. Now, I will be debating adding on Fly pretty quickly here, just in order to have a better same type attacking move. I don't think Mud Slap has that much value going forward from here. The only reason I kept it was so that I could go for those misses on Jasmine herself. So I'm not going to waste any time. I'm simply going to learn Fly right here with my stick, and we will forget Mud Slap in order to learn this move. And as we reach the top of the first part of the Radio Tower, we can simply set up Swords Dance and go into Slash, and all these coughings are basically easy. Sometimes these Pokemon can be hard just because there are so many self-destruct users, and if you get poisoned by Sludge, it can be a problem. But here, with one Swords Dance, the only Pokemon we're not going to one-shot is the Weezing, so this is going to be a completely trivial battle for our Farfetch'd. But now that brings us to the Rival. Let's just see how Rival 4 actually goes in this one, because he could be kind of random here. So of course he leads off with the Golbat. I'm going to use Agility first to make sure I'm faster than everything. Of course he'll always confuse me. I'm going to go for the Swords Dance here, and if I can, I'm going to set up multiple Swords Dances. Wing Attack is doing a lot of damage, but let's just see if we can sweep now. We one-shot the Golbat. Out comes the Magnemite. I'm going to stick with Slash. I get the one-hitter there. Haunter, we're going to have to go Fly. It misses Curse while we're in the sky, which is perfectly fine. Sneasel will go back to Slash. Easy victory. And now we've got the Feraligatr. Slash, yet again, gets the job done, and we have easily made it through the Rival on the first attempt. So after rescuing the Director, we can get the card key, and now we just have to complete this last little section. I honestly don't think it's going to be too bad to get through the rest of the Radio Tower from this point, so let's just make it to the final executives. So at the top against the final executive, I'm just going to set up a Swords Dance, and then I'm not sure, Houndoom might be really fast, so I'm going to set up Agility just to be safe. Then we'll simply go Slash on Houndour, one-shotting it. Out comes the Coughing, which also gets completely wrecked, and Houndoom. Out next, we are, of course, faster thanks to the Agility, and we just one-shot that Pokemon. So we've completed the Radio Tower at level 42, and we're ready to go take on Clair. So I had to take one reset because I accidentally ran into this guy over here to my left, and I wanted to stay on minimum battles. However, I hadn't saved since back in the Rocket Radio Tower section, so I ended up having to refight 6 trainers. That's why it shows 6 optional battles there. Those are not legitimate battles. Just to be clear, same for like the TMs showing there as 10 TMs. We definitely haven't used 10. The whole thing just went a little bit wonky when I had to go back and refight those trainers. So just take that with a little bit of a grain of salt there. Because in fact, we've only learned 2 TMs in this run. Those were Mud Slap and then Fly is an HM, but I counted as a TM move as well. Those are the only 2 moves that we have changed. So it should correctly be 2 TMs and 0 optional battles there on the side. Now, one thing that we can see in this last trainer before Clair is that without a Swords Dance, Dragonair will be a 2-hit KO. We do, of course, get through this Dragonair, but we're going to have to keep that in mind as we come into this battle, and we may be looking for a situation to get a miss from Thunder Wave in order to get through this one. We're just going to have to see, but it's going to take at least one Swords Dance in order to get the job done. So first attempt against Clair, I'm going to try to fly here, hoping she uses Thunder Wave, and then maybe she won't go Thunder Wave after that. We critical hit there against that first Dragonair. We could learn False Swipe here. I'm not going to, since I want moves that actually KO my opponents. That brings out the second Dragonair. I'm going to go for the same strategy. Here it goes for Thunder Wave again. I'm just going to slash it after that. Here, maybe we just need to get the one-hit KOs with a crit here, so let's just try. Instead, we do get Thunder Wave finally here, and then Ice Beam is pretty much going to wreck us. And on such low health, we're not going to beat Kingdra. Still, I think this is just a matter of getting a fight where we get a Thunder Wave miss and we're basically good to go. So I'm just going to reset for that luck. It's about a 25% chance to happen. Here we get the Thunder Wave miss, so now we should just be able to slash through all of these Dragonairs with one Swords Dance setup. And sure enough, we can simply knock them all out. That brings us to the final Kingdra. I'm going to go slash. It does well over half. She surfs on me, but that does less than half damage. So even though she Hyper Potions here, it's game over. We get the critical hit and just knock her out anyway. But even without the crit, we were going to knock her out on the next turn before she could even damage us. So Clair goes down really not that badly, as long as you get the miss from a Thunder Wave. And this is showing yet again that with this Farfetch'd, while yes, we are getting a higher critical hit chance from having the stick, it's not really putting in that much work. In fact, I would argue that we'd be better off in a lot of these fights by having a recovery berry or having a status healing berry than actually having the stick. And it's really for two reasons. One, because it's impossible to see when the stick is actually working. There's no indication that you got a critical hit because of the stick versus getting a critical hit because slash is a high crit move, or you just normally would have gotten a crit anyway. So it's hard to see the effects of the stick. But on top of that, a lot of these fights, you just need to set up Swords Dance in order to get through. And it's just about avoiding like a Thunder Wave or something in order to get that luck. So honestly, I think that if we can get to slash with Farfetch'd in the normal minimum battle series, it's going to be more consistent on some of these fights than what we're seeing so far. But still, with that done, interestingly, we have made it to the Elite Four on minimum battles. And the only fight that I've seen that is truly like inconsistent, how are we going to get through this, was the Jasmine fight. Every other fight we've seen so far has actually looked quite reasonable, considering the fact that we're running a pretty weak Pokemon overall. And of course, on this little path to victory road, we can skip all but one trainer. So we'll simply go and fight against that one rando, and then it's time to take on rival number 5. She, of course, has the level 36 Rapidash that she's here gatekeeping with, and she's going stomp strats, but we do manage to knock her out with 2 slashes. So that fight really wasn't bad at all. We can pick up the Max Elixir, and now I'm ready to make my way to our rival for the last fight before the league. So let's just attempt the rival once here and see how he goes. Of course, he's going to lead off with his Sneasel, which doesn't know any Ice-type moves, so I'm going to take this opportunity to set up Agility, and then we're going to set up 3 Swords Dances right here, and with that, I think we're capable of sweeping the team. We slash for the Sneasel, out comes the Magneton. I'm going to stick with Slash here and get the easy KO. Golbat is out next, Slash completely destroys it. Haunter, we can go Fly to prevent the curse from even connecting. Kadabra, Slash goes down in a single hit, and now the Feraligatr, we go Slash, and that is game over. The rival, Luke, can't touch my stick, if you know what I'm talking about. I swear that's not as bad as it sounds. You need to go watch that video. Anyway, we have made it to the league, so now there's nothing to do other than to buy as many full restores as we can. There aren't really any OPTMs or anything to get our hands on in this one. Like, we've already gotten returned, so that's really the only move I think we could think about slapping on somewhere. But in general, I think we just have to run with this set of Slash plus Fly and hope that we get crits and use Swords Dance in order to knock things out. So I'm just going to put all of the HM users into the PC here, because who knows, we may end up in a situation where we do have to take a bunch of optional battles if something's not working. But for now, let's just try on minimum battles and see how it actually goes. Leading off, of course, with Willy Boy, he's going to lead off with Xatu. It's a fairly fast Pokemon, but I think we might already outspeed everything. Still, I'm going to set up at least one 1 agility. Now let's go into Swords Dance. He's using Psychic against us. Let's see what Slash does. It does in fact get the 1-hit KO. Jinx comes out next. We're faster, but I think we were faster before, so the agility might be a complete waste of time here. Slowbro is a 2-hit KO, so we will need more Swords Dance to get through this one. Let's try this one again, but without setting up the agility, because maybe we just simply don't need it. So here I'm going to set up Swords Dance instead. It goes Confuse Ray against me. We're going to have to avoid hitting ourselves in confusion. It's a 50-50 shot to hit yourself after getting confused. Still, I think we need to set up at least 2 Swords Dances here, ideally 3, and then I think we just sweep the entire team. This is clearly a spot where you'd love to just have a Bitter Berry with this Pokemon though. So now we'll go back into our sweep here, and against the Slowbro, Slash just barely misses getting the 1-hit KO after setting up 2 Swords Dances, so we might just have to get a crit there. So I'm going to try this again, but this time I'm only going to set up 1 Swords Dance and then just try to make my way through that Slowbro. I think we have to get there with higher HP. So this time we're coming in still on green health. We only took 1 Psychic from the first Xatu, and we get the crit to just one-shot the Slowbro. That brings out the second Xatu, which is in a speed tie with us. We move first though, allowing us to simply one-shot that Pokemon. Out comes the Exeggutor, and here I'm simply going to go for Fly. It tries to go for Leech Seed, and then we miss, and it gets to set up Reflect. That was actually kind of terrible, and Fly is going to be a 2-hitter here. Still, it's on low enough health that Slash will just knock it out the next turn. So we managed to win. It's not perfectly consistent, but it's a spot where you definitely don't want to go too hard on setting up the Swords Dance. Really just 1 and then hoping for a crit is the way to get through that fight. But with Willy Boy done, now it's time to take on Koga. Let's see if we can find a way through him. Now Koga of course has faster Pokemon overall, so I am going to set up agility here again. It's not like Ariados can do anything that really scares us. So I'm going to set up a Swords Dance and then go Slash right there. Fortress is out next. I'm going to Fly. He goes for Spikes and then protects himself. Obviously, we don't want Explosion is the thing, and we're just kind of allowing him to use all the protects here. So maybe it's better to go just Swords Dance here and then Slash him. And here with crit, it's going to be a 2-hitter. So we do manage to get through. Muck's out next. I'm just going to go Slash and one-shot that Pokemon. Crobat comes out, and thanks to our agility, we are faster, so we can simply knock it out in a single hit. And that brings out the Venomoth, where Slash will simply do the job, allowing us to easily defeat Koga. Honestly, it was just tedious. It wasn't hard. Explosion was what I was worried about, but he's clearly smart enough not to use it against us since we can fly high up in the sky. But with that done, now it's time for Bruno. We have super effective moves against everything except the Onix. That's the only Pokemon I think we have to worry about. So let's just see how this actually goes. I think we're going to be faster than everything here, so I'm just going to set up Swords Dance. He's going for Quick Attack against us, which is kind of hilarious. But after 3 Swords Dances, I will just switch to Slash and one-shot that Hitmontop. Onix is out next. Slash is going to be a 2-hitter here. Rock Slide with a critical hit ends us. I'm not sure if the crit mattered. If a non-crit doesn't knock us out there, then we may have simply been able to sweep through the rest of the team. So we'll just have to see. I'm going to try to set up just 2 Swords Dances here just to see if it's enough to still get the 2-hit KO range on the Onix. So there we knock that one out. We Slash on the Onix. It does not look like we're going to get a 2-hit KO range here. We actually do get it though. That brings on Hitmonchan. We're going to go Slash, but it goes Mach Punch, allowing it to knock us out. So here, let's just go 1 Swords Dance and then Slash on Hitmontop. And let's just see what the range looks like on Onix. We're going to need a critical hit, I think, in order to get through this, or we get a nice Rock Slide miss. That's perfectly fine. Hitmonchan comes out next. We Slash it and 1-hit KO that Pokemon. Machamp is out. We're going to stick with our Slash and not quite get the 1-hitter there. We would have needed the Rock Slide miss, so we definitely need 2 Swords Dances here. If we get a critical hit on Onix, we should be able to one-shot, and sure enough, we do. Now Hitmonchan's out, we simply one-shot it. The Machamp is slower, and now Slash with 2 Swords Dances set up will just knock that Pokemon out. Hitmonlee is the last Pokemon, and it gets completely destroyed. I think we could have gotten through with crits in the right situations. We got 1 crit in this one against the Onix, and that was really all that we needed. Hitmonchan's not going to just use Mach Punch every time. It's only going to use it if it's going to KO you, basically. So that turned out to be perfectly fine. And with that, we have made it to Karen, where we're going to have to avoid some sand attacks, but I think this is going to be a perfectly winnable fight. So first things first, against this Umbreon, I'm going to set up my first Swords Dance right here. We do get Sand Attack, and then we're trying to land the Slash and missing twice off of one Sand Attack, which is pretty much how it always goes. But we can see that Slash is still a 2-hit KO there, even after one Swords Dance. Now we can fly on the Gengar, but we're going to need to use an agility to be able to outspeed here. Instead, we get Cursed this time, and that's basically game over at Destiny Bonds. There's nothing that we could do. So next attempt, I'm going to set up the agility right away and now go for the Swords Dance. And in fact, 2 Swords Dances. We get confused by Umbreon, but let's see if we can manage a hit. Here, it is enough to one-shot the Umbreon after that. We're going to fly against the Gengar, but we were confused and simply knocked ourselves out. Still, I think we can see a way to get through this one. Of course, it's all luck with the Umbreon. It can go for the Sand Attack on us, or it can go for the Confuse Ray, and sometimes we hit ourselves in confusion and we simply lose that way. So back to Gengar, we do have a Sand Attack on, but we fly and we do manage to hit. So we knocked that Pokemon out. Murkrow, we're going to go Slash. Easy victory right there. Houndoom, we're faster, but we miss. We survive the Flamethrower with 1 HP, and Slash knocks it out the next turn. We get to level 50 as Vileplume comes out. Slash lands, and just like that, we do manage to beat Karen. She's definitely not super consistent because of her Sand Attack plus Confuse Ray spam at the beginning, and that's just completely random. You're basically going to get one Sand Attack there no matter what you do. Confuse Ray is always just flipping a coin whether you hit yourself or not, and Swords Dance, it makes that significantly worse because it does mean you're using your higher attack stat to calculate damage against yourself. So you have to be kind of lucky there, but it is possible to make that fight work, and we have made it to Lance. Now, this could be the spot where this completely breaks down. He's got 6 Pokemon. They're all really strong and fast. We're just going to have to see. So I think the first strategy is to set up an agility because Aerodactyl is upcoming in this one. Now I'm going to set up Swords Dance. He goes Hyper Beam, so that's going to let me set up a second Swords Dance for free. And in fact, I'm going to set up a third Swords Dance. Surf does not one-shot us, so we go Slash and one-shot the Gyarados. Dragonite number 1, we go Slash and one-shot it. Dragonite number 2, we go Slash. That's another one-hit KO. Aerodactyl is out. We go Slash. We get the one-hitter with a crit. Charizard is out. We slash it. It goes down. Final Dragonite at level 50. We're at level 51. Can we get it? Yes! Oh my goodness. Oh, we beat Lance so incredibly easily with our Farfetch'd. Are you kidding me? Oh, that is just such a legendary fight. So we have done it. We have successfully beaten all of Johto on minimum battles. Like I said, the only 2 fights that I consider there to have been random, like you're going to need luck to get through them, were Jasmine and Karen. Every other fight, once I experimented with it, I felt like I arrived at a strategy that was at least reasonably consistent. Needing 1 Thunder Wave miss from Clair, for example, that's reasonable because it's a 25% chance. It's way better than getting a single critical hit in most cases. And besides, you would be one-shotting the Dragonairs with crits there, so I felt like that was perfectly fine. Basically, you know, it's just about finding the ranges, and that's something that I'm always doing here because I'm playing this live. I don't pre-route these runs. We just have to figure it out as we go. Still, it's actually pretty incredible to see just how good this Pokemon was, but we have no way to quantify how much of that was because of the stick. Slash already was a high critical hit chance move. Agility and Swords Dance did massive work there for this Pokemon. And really, our other move was basically mostly Mud Slap in order to get through Jasmine. And then Fly works in really key spots against those ghosts that want to use Curse. Still, it was a lot of fun to see that actually work out. And now it's time to move on to Kanto. So as we return to Professor Elm, now a champion with our legendary Farfetch'd, it is time to make our way to Kanto. I'm going to do a bunch of kind of housekeeping first, getting rare candies, etc., so that we're ready to just take on all the gyms in the Kanto region. But now as we arrive in Kanto, for once I'm not going to go straight to the trash man because I actually think Lieutenant Surge could be hard for this one. He has reasonably fast Pokemon plus super effective moves, so I'm going to go take on what I think are a couple of easier gym leaders first before I come back to try him. I have a lot more confidence here to take on Sabrina since Slash will do good damage and we can use our agility to outspeed, but let's see how this actually goes. So first up, she leads off with her Espeon. I'm going to go agility turn 1 as we get sand attacked. Let's just see what Slash does though. It does about half here, allowing us to knock out Espeon in 2 hits. I'm going to go Swords Dance now that we see how little we were doing, and then we can Slash to not quite one-shot the Mr. Mime. So clearly we're going to want to set up our Swords Dance a little bit earlier in this one. So back again, let's do agility into Swords Dance, and now go Slash. Oh, but Quick Attack takes us down. So Sabrina might actually be legit hard. I mean, our special defense isn't really that good. Still, we managed to get through the Mr. Mime on this attempt after setting up some Swords Dances. That brings us to Alakazam. We missed the Slash due to the 1 sand attack. Otherwise, we simply would have one-shot there, I believe. So this is clearly just luck-based at this point. It's not impossible by any means, but it's clearly not going to go very well. We're probably better off going and fighting against Erica. Fortunately, as long as we don't miss, Fly completely destroys all of the randos inside of Erica's gym. So it's time to just see if we can beat Erica herself. She is going to lead off with her Tangela. So I'm going to take this opportunity to set up a Swords Dance here. And then Fly, I think, will just guarantee 1-hit KOs on everything. We one-shot there against the Tangela. Blossom is out next. It goes Sunny Day, and we miss our Fly. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure we just one-shot here. Sure enough, we do on the next attempt. Fortunately, we didn't take too much damage from the Solar Beam. Jump Bluff, we miss again. The 5% chance to miss feels like a 50% chance to miss, but we do knock out the Jump Bluff. Out comes the Victory Bell. We land the Fly and one-shot it. So just like that, Erica goes down super duper easy, even with some accuracy issues from Fly. So with that done, I'm going to make my way over to the power plant just so that we can get through this little fetch quest here and we can open up more gyms. And with that whole section done, we're ready to go get the expansion card. And I think we can take on all the randos north on our way to interrupt Misty's date. And we could even go try to fight against Janine or somebody in order to just get a super easy victory. But it is kind of telling that we're not one-shotting all of the Pokemon on the way up to Billy Boy's old house, which kind of shows just how middling the stats of our Farfetch'd really are. We've really been relying a lot on that Swords Dance in order to actually get work done. Still, we do manage to mess up Misty's date nice and easy, and we can go back and try to take her on one time before we go hunting for even weaker trainers like Janine. Let's just see if we can actually manage the win. I think she has some Pokemon that do know Blizzard, so we'll have to be careful, but with the Swords Dances, I think we can get it to go. So first up, she leads off with a Golduck. I'm going to agility here because I expect that her Starmie is going to be really fast. Then let's Swords Dance a couple of times, and then Slash in order to just easily knock that Pokemon out. Lapras is out next. We go Slash and get the 1-hit KO. Starmie comes out. We're faster thanks to the agility, and we one-shot. We get to level 56 as Quagsire comes out. We go Slash, and it's a 1-hit KO sweep on Misty's entire squad. No need to worry at all against the second Kanto gym leader. And I figure at this point, let's just give Sabrina another attempt before we go any further, since she's just literally right here on our way back down south. Let's just see if we can beat her. So I'm still going agility here because I expect to be outsped later on. Slash, with a critical hit, gets a one-hitter on the Espeon. I'm going to go a Swords Dance right here. Mr. Mime barriers, so I'm going to Swords Dance a second time. Now we can go Slash and just one-shot that Pokemon. Alakazam's out next. Slash completely destroys it, and we get through Sabrina when we come back at just ever so slightly higher level. It really wasn't too bad. And what the heck, I figure we may as well try an attempt at Surgy Boy, because how bad could he really be, right? I mean, if he doesn't manage to just double team everything, we can probably win by just setting up some Swords Dance. So Lieutenant Surge attempt number 1. We're already faster than the Raichu, so I'm just going to go Slash here. It just barely misses the range to get a one-hitter. That could be an actual range there. So Magneton comes out next. It's going for Zap Cannon. This Pokemon we will need to have an actual Swords Dance for. But honestly, this might just be a matter of not getting paralyzed. So here I'll set up the Swords Dance. Raichu misses Thunder. We knock it out in a single hit. Magneton, we go Slash. It still is able to survive. So we're going to need to land a Slash here. Zap Cannon does massive damage. And that I think is already a reset. So it honestly looks like we need a couple of Swords Dances here to have any shot. And we're really hoping to get like a Thunder miss from the Raichu. So this time we get 2 Swords Dances set up. That brings us back to the Magneton, which we do one-shot, at least with a crit there. Electabuzz gets completely wrecked. Electrode is slightly faster, so I'm going to go for Agility, but the Electrodes don't know any electric-type moves. So after Agility, we just one-shot the first Electrode, and we will one-shot the second Electrode, and we do manage to beat Lieutenant Surge. It's not super consistent, but I figure that he's at least fine there. We honestly kind of expected that he wouldn't be a super easy gym leader, but he is possible at least at our current level. And now as we make the Snorlax move out of the way, we are ready to go, and we can check out Pewter City, but I actually think Brock will be pretty hard given that we don't have any good moves against rock types. I'm just gonna go to Pewter City just so I can fly back later. But for now, let's go down south and take on Janine and Blaine first, just because I think those two will be significantly easier. And we're also going to come and thunk Blue on the noggin with our stick, and we're ready to go into this gym. So let's just see how it goes. Blaney Boy attempt number 1. So of course, Blaine leads off with his Mag Cargo. It does no Rock Slide, which is kind of scary. We're going to set up a Swords Dance. He goes for Curse. Then let's go Slash, and he's cursing like crazy. So he's actually getting a lot more defense. Then he goes Rock Slide, and it does massive damage, but we do manage to knock the Mag Cargo out. The Magmar, on the other hand, is an easy one-hit KO, and Rapidash comes out. We Slash and just destroy it in a single hit, getting the level 58 as we defeat Blaine on the first attempt. Said the second attempt, that was just because I had a mistake that I had to reset for. Really, he's not a major issue at all. Now it's time for Janine, who I expect to just be a one-hit KO fest. She might be trolly if she manages to land that Toxic, though. We saw it previously. After I talked trash about her, she did actually manage to beat me. So let's not go in quite as cocky this time. So my strategy is pretty simple. I'm going to set up Swords Dance right here. She goes Screech. We answer with a Slash to knock out the Crobat. The Weezing, we go for Slash and get the easy KO. Weezing number 2 also gets wrecked. Out comes the Ariados. It never stood a chance. And the Venomoth, I'm not even going Fly here. We're just sticking with Slash. It's 100% accurate. And after the Swords Dance, it's just going to destroy her entire team. Who knows? We might not have even needed the Swords Dance there. I was just doing it to be safe. Either way, we have managed to get that done. So now it's just Brock and Blue that we have to beat. I'm going to go to Brock first since he is technically a bit weaker than Blue, though who knows, he might actually turn out to be a bigger wall because of his typing. So Brock attempt number 1. I'm going to lead off with Swords Dance. He's setting up Rollout with this Graveler, then he misses Rollout. That's actually really good. We set up all 3 Swords Dances and now one-shot that Pokemon. Onix comes out next. We managed to get the one-hit KO with the Slash. Rhyhorn also gets wrecked. Now it's to Amistar, who doesn't know any rock-type moves and easily gets wrecked anyway. Kabutops also comes out and gets completely destroyed. So Rocky Boy actually wasn't that hard, thanks a little bit to some rollout misses. But hey, we'll take it. So now it's time for the last 2 trainers that we know are actually the main bosses of the game, Blue and Red. We saw last time that even if you can manage to get through Blue, Red is not a guarantee by any means. So this could be a situation where we actually have to be a little bit careful. So blue leads off with his Pidgeot. We're going to go for the agility first, just to make sure we outspeed the entire team. He mirror moves agility, but that's fine. We're already faster. We're going to set up the Swords Dances right here because he has the Rhydon later on. He mirror moves Swords Dance. That's perfectly fine. We'll just destroy him with a Slash. Out next comes that Rhydon. Slash does slightly less than half, and he completely wrecks us with his super effective Rock Slide. So the only real question is, how do we do if we manage to get crits here? Maybe, just maybe, we can find a range where we get through between crits and a miss from Rock Slide or something like that. So this time we do get a crit, but we can see it's not quite enough. He has 13 HP remaining as he hits the Rock Slide. The only other question I have is, are we able to ever get a range where we could survive a Rock Slide here? So for example, if we get here with green health, I just want to see if it's ever survivable. It does not appear to be at that point. Like, theoretically, we can just get a bunch of mirror moves from this first Pidgeot. It's not required to actually hit us with a damage dealing move. However, it is possible to get a range where a critical hit does one-shot the Rhydon after setting up 3 Swords Dances. This is probably a really high roll, but we will take it. That brings out the Alakazam. Thanks to our agility, we are faster than this Pokemon, so Slash one-shots it. Out next is the Gyarados. Slash, with all of the setup, is in one-hit KO there as well. Arcanine gets completely destroyed. That brings out Exeggutor. I'm just going to stick with Slash, and we get the job done. So it turns out that what you actually need, keeping in mind this is a max DVs Farfetch'd with no vitamins, is to get a really high roll on your critical hit when you get to that Rhydon. A low roll will not get the KO, a high roll will. That goes to show just how incredibly close this is. Obviously, we could try some rare candies there in order to hopefully get more levels, but for now, hey, we have gotten through to red. We're going to have 10 rare candies as usual going into this fight, so it's just a question from there of whether or not we can actually manage to beat him. I'm going to predict that this one's going to be pretty rough since he leads off with the Pikachu. We might actually have to KO the Pikachu turn 1 or hope for like a Thunder Miss, which does happen a reasonable percentage of the time, but it's hard to see us getting through without like a Thunder Miss here. Maybe he decides to just go Charm or something. Honestly, not sure, but I don't expect that we outspeed either against either him or against the Espeon that comes out second. So we're definitely going to need agility in there somewhere as well, plus Swords Dances. So this one could turn out to be really, really, really tough. And here, of course, we can get the TM for Steel Wing. I'm not sure if that move is ever going to actually be useful here. We kind of would have liked that for that Rhydon that we were just dealing with previously. The placement of Steel Wing is kind of questionable in my opinion. But minor gripes aside, we have made it to the end on minimum battles with this Farfetch'd, and it's just a question of whether or not we can get the job done. So as we look at our doppelganger, which is clearly RBY Pokemon challenges right here, let's get into this fight. So of course he leads off with the level 81 Pikachu. He goes Thunder and just one-shots us. So we're going to need some luck to get through this. Still, it's a 30% chance to miss with Thunder, so we should have a chance to possibly get through this. Here, he misses the Thunder. We set up agility. Then I'm just going to go Slash just to see. We do manage to get through with a 2-hit KO. Blastoise comes out next and then goes Blizzard, and it just completely destroys our Farfetch'd. So clearly that was not enough. Let's start slamming on our rare candies here. I'm just going to go all the way up to level 70, given our type weakness to the first 2 Pokemon that we're seeing here, and we'll just have to see if this is enough. Here we can just barely survive against a Thunder. So we just need a situation where he gets a Thunder Miss, and then I think the next turn we can set up our Swords Dance and possibly win. He will go Quick Attack after hitting the Thunder though, because we're on such low health that he can just easily get the victory. Okay, here we do get the Thunder Miss, then he hits the next Thunder, and he's just going to knock us out after that. So we need at least 2 Thunder Misses, I think, to have a chance here. We're talking about a 9% chance for that to happen. Here we get the 2 Thunder Misses in a row, so we set up agility and Swords Dance, and now we can destroy the Pikachu. Out comes the Blastoise. We go for the Slash. It does about half as he goes Rain Dance, and then we knock him out the next turn. Espeon comes out. I'm going to slash this Pokemon. It's not a one-hit KO. It's a two-hitter, but we do manage to take that one down. Snorlax is out next. I'm going to set up another Swords Dance here, and he destroys me with a critical hit Body Slam. Not sure if the non-crit would have taken us down or not. Now, what I do think is pretty clear is that if the stick actually does its job and gives us more crits, we could just one-shot a lot of these Pokemon with critical hits. So another attempt here. We do get through Espeon with a critical hit. Back to Snorlax. Let's see the range, and it only does about half. So again, we probably need a crit with a high roll in order to get through against the Snorlax. So here we managed to get to Espeon on full health. Then Psychic does massive damage, and it also set up Reflect. So we do manage to one-shot with a crit, but now we're going to Snorlax where it has a Reflect on. I'm going to set up a Swords Dance here again, and yet again it critical hits me, and I don't know if that was enough to one-shot me or not, just based on Body Slam alone. I mean, it does have a really high attack stat, so I assume it's enough to just KO me anyway, that the crit probably didn't matter there. Here I managed to set up 2 Swords Dances on the Pikachu without it being able to KO me. It just missed every single turn. Now we can go to Slash on the Blastoise. A critical hit gets the job done there. Espeon, we go for the Slash and we get the one-hit KO on that Pokemon. I'm going to stick with Slash on Snorlax. It's going to take 2 hits, but it goes Amnesia since we're not in a range to be KO'd here. Charizard is out next. We go Slash and get the one-hitter. That brings out the Venusaur, and we go Fly. It goes Sunny Day. We hit the Fly as we come down and one-shot it. So man, it took a ton of attempts there, but we did manage to beat Red on minimum battles with our Farfetch'd. Are you kidding me? Oh, that final fight is not consistent at all. That one is so insanely luck-based. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, if I could go back and redo this run, the only question I have is, did I ever actually need Fly? Like, was Fly ever a situation where I needed to use that move and I couldn't use Slash? Because you might have been better off just sticking with Mud Slap until the end. The logic being that instead of using Fly, by keeping Mud Slap, you would basically be hoping for the 30% chance for Pikachu to miss turn 1, hit it with a Mud Slap after you Agility, and then it's got a significantly lower chance to hit that Thunder, and then you can set up your Swords Dances after that. The odds probably still stack up in a way where it's incredibly luck-based and incredibly difficult to get through, but it at least would give you a chance at that fight. But really, I mean, Farfetch'd is gonna struggle there in that fight no matter what you do, because you got a Pikachu using Thunder and you've got a Blastoise using Blizzard. So those moves are kind of made to wreck a Pokemon like this. Still, it's incredibly interesting that we got through. Like I said before, it's really hard to tell if the stick actually had any major impact on that run. Every fight that seemed like it was winnable was seeming like it was winnable based on Swords Dance, not really based on, you know, trying to get a crazy number of critical hits. So yeah, I'm gonna say right now, I don't think the stick really put in that much work here. Yes, there were a few fights where we got multiple critical hits, but most of the time it was really just finding what range we needed with Swords Dances and Agilities in order to get through, and that actually provided us with the way to make this Pokemon work. Chansey coming up with the Lucky Punch, I'm expecting to be really, really tough. But we'll just have to see. For now, that is our 3rd special held item Pokemon done. We're going to do Chansey next time in this, though I will have an episode of the Minimum Battles series before that comes out, so just stay tuned. We're also going to look at some other special Gen 2 Pokemon. We're going to look at the Berserker gene on a Mewtwo. I just think that's going to be incredibly interesting. And we are going to look at, eventually, the Earthquake Gligar that is also available from Stadium 2 that I think is a super interesting Pokemon. So in these solo runs, just expect Chansey, expect Berserker gene Mewtwo, and then expect that Earthquake Gligar as a few more runs that we're going to be doing in the very near future. Anyway, I appreciate you guys for hanging out with me. Thank you to the channel members and everybody who watches every single week. You guys make my week every time. I'm getting incredibly close to my long-term goal of being a full-time PokeTuber. So if you'd like to support me in that, how about watching another video like the time that we did an entire run of Pokemon Crystal with a Snorlax using only 20 base power moves. I'll link that down here. But until then, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Later.